world where power is often displayed through aggression, where influence is measured by expansion, and where dominance is declared through confrontation, there exists a force that does none of these, yet quietly shapes one of the most critical regions on Earth.
Before we move forward, please like, subscribe, and share Strategic Vanguard, and be up to date with the latest news and happenings from the world of defense and strategic affairs. Tune into our video channels in Rumble and YouTube. And if you want to hear the audio version, please tune into Strategic Vanguard Deep Dive in Spotify.
There are no overt threats, no constant displays of military intimidation, no aggressive signaling that dominates global headlines, and yet, from the Strait of Hormuz to the Malacca Strait, from the eastern coast of Africa to the maritime approaches of Southeast Asia, one navy ensures that the Indian Ocean does not descend into instability. This is not a story of visible dominance or coercive power, but of silent control, a form of strategic influence that operates beneath the surface, shaping outcomes without announcing itself. This is the Indian Navy, the silent guardian of the Indian Ocean. The Indian Ocean is not just another expanse of water on the world map. It is the lifeline of the global economy, a vast maritime highway through which the energy and trade that sustain modern civilization continuously flow. Nearly 80% of global maritime oil trade passes through these waters, connecting the energy-rich regions of the Middle East with the manufacturing hubs of Asia and the markets of the wider world. Its choke points, including the Strait of Hormuz, Bab el-Mandeb, and the Strait of Malacca, are not merely geographic features, but strategic pressure points where disruption can send shockwaves across the global system. Unlike the Atlantic or the Pacific, which are structured around powerful alliances and established maritime dominance, the Indian Ocean remains relatively open without a single overarching security architecture, making it inherently vulnerable to instability. In such a fragile and critically important region, stability is not automatic. It is maintained, often quietly, by forces that do not always seek recognition for their role. The Indian Navy operates within this space on a principle that is increasingly rare in contemporary geopolitics: power without posturing. It does not seek to dominate through intimidation, nor does it rely on aggressive deployments to assert its presence. Instead, it adopts a doctrine of steady and consistent presence, one that is designed not to provoke, but to reassure. Its ships sail not as symbols of coercion, but as instruments of stability, maintaining a balance that allows the region to function without fear of sudden disruption. While other powers often establish overseas military bases or expand their footprints as a means of projecting influence, India has largely chosen a different path, one that prioritizes partnerships, cooperative engagements, and maritime domain awareness over overt expansion. This approach has allowed the Indian Navy to build a reputation that is both unique and strategically valuable. A perception that it is not a threat to regional nations, but a guarantor of stability in an otherwise uncertain environment. Geography plays a decisive role in shaping this influence, and in the Indian Ocean, India's position provides it with a natural strategic advantage that no external power can easily replicate. India does not approach the Indian Ocean from afar. It is inherently embedded within it, extending into the maritime space like a natural platform of power. To its west lie the critical energy routes of the Middle East, while to its east stretch the vital trade corridors leading to Southeast Asia and beyond. At the center of this strategic positioning lies the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, a chain of islands that overlook the Strait of Malacca, one of the busiest and most important maritime choke points in the world. From this vantage point, India possesses the ability to monitor, observe, and, if required, influence the flow of maritime traffic through one of the most critical arteries of global trade. Yet what distinguishes India's use of this geographic advantage is not the capability itself, but the restraint with which it is exercised. Rather than weaponizing its position, India uses it to stabilize the region, ensuring that its presence contributes to balance rather than tension. The true measure of the Indian Navy's influence, however, becomes most visible not in times of conflict, but in moments of crisis. When natural disasters strike across the Indian Ocean region, whether in the form of tsunamis, cyclones, or humanitarian emergencies, the Indian Navy is often among the first to respond. Its ships are not only instruments of war, but platforms of relief, carrying supplies, medical aid, and support to affected regions. Similarly, when conflicts or instability threaten civilians, the Indian Navy has repeatedly demonstrated its ability to conduct evacuation operations, bringing people to safety with speed and efficiency. These actions are not merely acts of goodwill. They are strategic demonstrations of responsibility, reinforcing India's role as a reliable first responder in the region. In a maritime space that lacks a centralized authority, the ability to respond quickly and effectively becomes a form of power in itself, one that builds credibility and trust over time. This trust forms the foundation of what can be described as India's most significant strategic asset in the Indian Ocean: trust capital. Unlike models of influence that rely on coercion or dependency, the Indian Navy's approach has been to build relationships that are based on cooperation and mutual benefit. Through joint exercises, training programs, and the sharing of maritime intelligence, India has worked to strengthen the capabilities of regional partners without imposing control over them. This has created a network of relationships that enhances collective security while preserving the autonomy of individual nations. In contrast, approaches that emphasize expansion, infrastructure control, or military presence often generate suspicion, as they are perceived as attempts to reshape the strategic landscape in favor of a single power. In a region as sensitive and diverse as the Indian Ocean, such perceptions can have long-term consequences. By focusing on partnership rather than dominance, the Indian Navy has positioned itself as a stabilizing force that is both respected and trusted by those it engages with. At the same time, it is important to recognize that this approach is not the result of limited capability, but of deliberate strategic choice. The Indian Navy is a blue water force, capable of operating far beyond its immediate region and sustaining deployments across vast distances. It possesses the technological and operational capacity to project power in multiple theaters, and yet it exercises this capability with a level of discipline that reflects a deeper understanding of the region it operates in. Overextension can provoke resistance, and overt aggression can lead to counterbalancing alliances, both of which can undermine long-term strategic objectives. By maintaining a calibrated presence, the Indian Navy avoids these pitfalls, ensuring that its influence remains both effective and sustainable. This balance between capability and restraint is not easily achieved, but it is central to the Indian Navy's strategic identity. This brings us to a more fundamental question, one that goes beyond the assessment of capabilities or deployments. The question is not whether India is a powerful actor in the Indian Ocean, as the evidence of its presence, reach, and influence clearly indicates that it is. The real question is what kind of power India chooses to be in this critical maritime space. In an era where many powers equate strength with visibility and influence with expansion, the Indian Navy represents an alternative model, one that prioritizes stability over dominance and legitimacy over coercion. This is not a passive approach, nor is it an absence of strategy. It is a calculated form of engagement that recognizes the unique dynamics of the Indian Ocean and adapts accordingly. In this context, restraint becomes a form of control rather than a sign of weakness. When backed by credible capability, restraint signals confidence, a willingness to exercise power only when necessary rather than as a constant display. Over time, this approach generates legitimacy, as regional actors come to view such a force not as an external imposition, but as an integral part of the regional security environment. Legitimacy, unlike coercion, cannot be imposed. It must be earned, and once established, it provides a foundation for influence that is far more durable than any temporary advantage gained through aggression. The Indian Navy, through its consistent and measured actions, has gradually built this legitimacy, positioning itself as a force that is both capable and trusted. As the Indian Ocean continues to grow in strategic importance, with increasing competition and the entry of new actors seeking to expand their presence, the nature of power in the region will play a decisive role in shaping its future. The question will not simply be who has the largest fleet or the most advanced technology, but who is perceived as a stabilizing force capable of maintaining the openness and security of maritime routes. In such an environment, the ability to build trust, respond to crises, and maintain a balanced presence will be as important, if not more so, than the ability to project force. Ultimately, the future of the Indian Ocean will not be determined solely by displays of power or assertions of dominance, but by a quieter and more enduring principle: trust. It will depend on which actors are relied upon to keep sea lanes open, to respond in times of need, and to maintain stability without imposing control. In this regard, the Indian Navy occupies a unique position, one that has been shaped not just by its capabilities, but by the manner in which it chooses to exercise them. It is a force that influences without dominating, secures without threatening, and leads without overtly declaring leadership. And in a world where power is often loud and visible, that kind of influence is rare. Yet, in the vast and vital expanse of the Indian Ocean, it is precisely this quiet, consistent presence that ensures stability is preserved. Whether acknowledged globally or not, the responsibility of maintaining balance in this critical region rests, in large part, with a navy that has mastered the art of silent control. The Indian Navy does not need to declare its role, because its impact is already felt in every secure sea lane, in every successful response to crisis, and in the enduring trust of the region it serves.
Thank you for joining us on this strategic Vanguard deep dive. If you found value in this analysis, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We bring you fresh deep dives every Wednesday and Saturday here on YouTube and Rumble, and you can also catch the audio versions on Spotify and Amazon Music. Just search for Strategic Vanguard Deep Dive. For more insights, articles, and discussions, subscribe to our blog at strategicvanguard.com. Your support helps us grow and bring you more in-depth analysis on defense, geopolitics, and strategy. Until next time, stay informed, stay strategic.